Hello, John.
Hello, Oliver.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about Maghemore Beach. It's down in County Wicklow. It's a beautiful, very, very scenic spot, and it's recently sold, and it's quite controversial now because the access might be blocked for the public.
Well, that's a shame. Wicklow has British Bay, which is a fine beach, but you have to pay some €4 or whatever it is to park and that. So it probably makes the car safer because oftentimes in scenic places cars can be robbed by roving thieves. But Maghemore or Maghemore, funny enough, it's a real Mayo name. Maghemore in Wicklow, near Wicklow town, not too far from it, and near a place called Blaine Road Beach. Now, it's a lovely beach, and I'm sure I swam in it years ago because I would have been familiar with any beach that was fit to sort of without these stones. I'm not too fond of walking on stones. I like to keep my feet in one piece. Now, so this beach was well used by the public, surfers and people that would have a swim, and people for one reason or another that it's very convenient for people going to Wicklow, and grand to be such a beach like that, and view the sea and the calmness and all the rest of it. And this weather being so pleasant, it would have been great to be able to be visiting that beach, which people has did for a long time. Now, apparently last year, I don't presume COVID was on, a very peculiar time to put anything on the market, and the price seemed quite reasonable at 21,500, but that must have been just like a carrot to bring in all the ones with money. And it sold apparently for €700,000.
Okay, just a correction there, John. So it went on the market for 200,000. You said 21,000.
Oh, was it?
So it was 200,000 for 21 acres, and of course a lot of people jumped on that then, and it brought a lot of interest into it.
The 21 acres, yes. I presume the acres, you would be a scarcity of cows grazing on that. Say it's all sand dunes and stuff like that. I can't imagine any farming element in it.
Well, I can tell you that all the land that was there, all the land there is fine, prime farming land. It's basically on a cliff. So it is actually very good land.
Is it? And because you think it'd be full of stones, because
No.
With that site. But well, that's good. It's so long since I would have been there that I wouldn't remember it, and I probably wasn't looking at pastures. I was just interested in having a swim and on the beach. And people used it, surfers and all the rest of it. And and very convenient and used probably by the public in a big way. Now, there was access to it that has been available for years, so I think people still have rights as regards what they were using, and I presume there'll be a committee formed to seek what was always available, irrespective of the developer that bought it, and intends apparently to build apartments probably at an exorbitant price because they're looking at the sea, and nice and neat in some ways, so they'd have to have transport to go wherever food and groceries they might need. So it has pluses and it has minuses as regards people living in it. But developers, that's all they're interested in, is furthering profits, because anybody that paid 700,000 for that wasn't interested in the farming aspect. They're interested in doing something about maximising their outlay and making further profit. So profit is the motive, and people that buy anything with that attitude is usually not good for the public. But I think the people that use that beach would need to form themselves into a group, a very strong group, and seek publicity in the local press and in the media, both TV, radio and print, and agitate for the access that they were entitled to for generations. And they're parents, grandparents and all the rest of it must have togged out there and hopped in for a swim because bathrooms were scarce years ago. So a swim in the summertime was a great way of being clean. And of course the salt water is very good for the whole system. That's why people swim, because of the salt water. It benefits you and you feel great after a swim in the sea. And now, so people there that use that beach, which was a lovely beach, now will have to go further afield to British. And of course that'll be overcrowded, so probably parking will be a problem. So there's repercussions for the like of that. So I would advocate John Malone of the Christian TV Ireland project would advocate that people come together and form a group to seek access as they were entitled to and as they're still entitled to. People have rights irrespective of the property developers that interfere with those rights.
Now the thing is, Oakmount developments, okay, haven't, what they've said is they don't think there will be any issues regarding access. That's what they have said. But I think what you're really talking about there is a preemptive type of group, just to let them know that put them on notice that you know the public won't tolerate if they do try to close it down, because there was a barrier put up not by Oakmount, but it was a barrier put up in 2006 where the road, where it comes from the main road down to the beach. There's a beautiful walkway with tree lined. Okay,
lovely. And
there was a barrier put up, and people couldn't access it with their cars anymore. You know, so that was the first kind of privatisation as such. But and it was owned by the nuns, we were saying before, remember?
Long, and I'm sure there was access for people.
Was it the Carmelites, I think, was it? Or
well, I think it was the was it the Carmelites or the Sister of Charity? Because don't forget, we had nuns, the Presentation nuns, the Sister of Charity, founded by Irish people that did a lot of good, and they had that were wealthy, but they put the money to good use for the education of the poor and for the help of those that was abandoned.
Okay, so it was actually the Columbian Order, and it was before its original sale in the 1980s.
Lovely. And they were there for years, probably.
They were there for years, and so
they must have had a convent.
They probably did, yeah.
Or a building where they could stay. So close. Is there no sign of that now?
Like you often hear of nuns' strands. Like down in Ballybunion, you have a nun strand. That was just for the nuns. So maybe all these orders had their own little beaches everywhere.
Right.
I suppose to think about it, they would need it because they need some bit of serenity in their lives because they're dealing with hardship all the time.
That's correct. And funny enough, I think the nuns used to go away for holidays to various seaside places that I can recall years ago when I was younger. Funny enough, there's a scarcity of nuns now because of the lack of the vocations and, of course, the kind of persecution that they've endured from secular governments in this country and their reputation thrown into shreds, which the Christian TV Ireland project will defend because they did so much good by way of education and looking after people that had nobody to look after them.
That's it. So there we go. So hopefully Maghemore Beach will continue to be open to the public for as long as we're around, I hope.
Yes, and you can see that they're going to be development there, and you wouldn't know what kind of development. And of course then the people in Wicklow, the council will be in favour of that because it'll be rates or whatever, property
brings
tax or
money,
something. Yeah, and bring money into the town. So you can see that there will be, that there won't be the objections from the local authority. But I think the people that use that should form into a group to sort of make sure that they have access to that beach without further ado, because there can be barriers put up, and as you say, in 2006, so they must have had to overcome that in some ways.
No, it's still there. The barrier's still there. I was there.
Well, then that could be re-erected. And what is the back? Can the barrier be put down?
So what's happened now is that you have a barrier right at the front, so you can't drive down the road. And then there's a farmer who's renting out his land as a car park, the field right at the front of the road there. And you pay €5 to park your car. And there's a little shop there. He's opened a little shed sells ice creams and things. And then, of course, you got the Viking films being made there as well. So sometimes it's actually cut off. You can't go down the beach at the moment because they're making Viking movies and various things, you know.
Well, they should be doing that at a time, not when the weather is good and people want to avail of the seaside to cool off and have a swim. So, Vikings destroyed this country and monasteries and anything that could plunder. So they were persecutors, and anything to do with Vikings. In my opinion, they shouldn't be supported in any shape, way, or form. The same as anybody that inflicted destruction on our culture and on our monasteries and churches that were giving great hope and help to many of Irish people. So the Vikings were the most unwelcome visitors, coming plundering and killing people and taking people as hostages back as servants and slaves. So their reputation is very bad in my book, having studied history.
Gruesome.
Gruesome would be the word, because as regards being Christian and Catholics, that's what the Vikings were not.
Absolutely. Right, John, we're going to move on. That's thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks.